Hey guys, we've got an active weather pattern, and then listen, it's cold across the east. There's no way to really slice that out. And this map here behind me is our start to December. Basically, the 1st through the 4th, your temperature departures. Take a look at this. This would be December 1 through December 4th, departures from average everywhere in the east below normal. We've been pretty warm across the west to start December. This will start to change, but I want to show you what it was looking like last year at this time. How about this? 2022, still above average. 21 was a blowtorch year here across the central United States, all the way, pretty much everywhere except for the Northeast where we were close to average. You got to go back to 2020 before we had a month like this. And even here, it was warm up across the northern tier, across from the Great Lakes into North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. We were way above average. Go back to 2019, though. This was a little bit colder. 2018, a much different year in the East, cold in the West. 2017, a blowtorch year. So, again, this is where we are right now. So, a pretty cold start to December, and you really got to go back and look at some other years. Now, how about this? This is 2010, right? This is where we are now. So, we're kind of looking like almost like 2010. A little bit different, though, because we're colder here in the Northeast. Does it stay that way? Some of you might have remembered those winters. How about 2008? This is where we started December. This is where we are now. I am certainly not saying we're going to end up with a year like 2008, but we are certainly starting that way. Anyway, at least the first 4 days, and that's not a lot to go on. Point is, it's cold, way below average. There are some changes, too, in the Arctic. I want to show you this. This is the sea ice, also the snow cover across the northern hemisphere. Over here is Siberia, Alaska, over into the Northwest Territories. Down here is the United States. Take a look at where we were last year. I want you to watch right here, right around Alaska. Also watch the North American continent. Last year, this year, right? I'll do it again. Last year, this year. Much more snow here. Across parts of Europe, I would say maybe less snow this year because last year there was quite a bit more. This year, not as much, as a lot of that cold air, I think, has migrated this way across the pole. Does it stay this way? I don't honestly know, but we're going to dig into some of the things that I'm looking at as we head into January. It's a little bit of a long-term outlook. If you like this kind of content, I hope you'll come back and subscribe. First of all, thank you so much if you have subscribed. Over 12,000 of you have done so over the last couple of weeks. You've pushed us over that number. Thank you so much. If you're brand new, I'm Travis Roberts. I used to be a chief meteorologist on television, but now we're doing these videos here on YouTube. So come back. All right, here's where it's going to be warm, at least compared to what? December 6th. So across parts of eastern Colorado, North Texas, and Oklahoma, temperatures could top out in the upper 50s and 60s, but there's the cold. It actually starts to retreat some now as we head into Friday, Saturday. Temperatures really warming up on Saturday. Now we're up into the 60s, maybe even into parts of South Dakota. And then the cold starts to take a grip across the Rockies as we head into early next week as our weather pattern definitely changes. And here comes our next shot of cold air across the west that eventually will move east. Way below average here heading into your Friday across Tennessee, Nashville, to over across northern parts of Alabama, Mississippi. It is going to be really cold. These are, well, this would be pretty close to your high temperatures for the day. This would be 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. Upper 30s across northern Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia here, below freezing into the mountains. Some parts of Kentucky not getting above freezing. Chicago stuck in the 20s. Very cold into the northeast with teens and 20s here. New York City may not crack freezing too. So pretty chilly across the east. Temperatures here do start to change. We cool down heading into Saturday, at least Saturday morning across northern parts of New England. Up northern parts of Maine could get very close, if not below zero. And then here comes your warmer air. You're starting to see it move northeast as we head into Saturday. Another cold morning across Maine. I think we get below zero again. And you can see that cold starting to retreat as our flow starts to turn more out of the southwest, heading into Sunday and then into Monday out ahead of our next system. And it really starts to warm up. So think about it, guys. We're in the 30s now across the Tennessee Valley, into Nashville. Now we're back up into the 60s and 70s heading into Monday. So temperatures on the way back up. And then another shot of cold air. Looks like it's going to be moving through. Now, this is where things get interesting heading into next week. We're going to have this front that moves through here. Where does our storm set up? You've got a pretty strong baroclinic zone. That's the places where you see strong temperature gradients. Do we end up seeing an area of low pressure riding up along this front as it moves off to the east? A couple of the models say yes. Some say no. Not a lot of confidence in that forecast, but we'll dig into that in just a second. Here's where your snow is going to fall, at least over the next couple of days through Sunday, moving from central Canada into Ontario and here into the northeast. We're going to get some pretty decent snow too. Some lake effect going here, especially downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. We're talking about maybe up to a foot of snow on top of what we've already seen in some of the heavier snow bands. Some of this has fallen, but still, nonetheless, a snowy lake effect snow event continuing through Friday into Saturday. Arctic high pressure now, which is modified some, settling into the southeast. We got a ridge across the west, but we're starting to feel that breaking down across the Pacific Northwest with some rain and snow moving into parts of Washington, Oregon, also into parts of British Columbia, and even in the mountains of Alberta here. Up towards Banff, we got more snow flying here into the coastal ranges here along British Columbia. And then another system tries to slip through parts of the Great Lakes into southern parts of Ontario, bringing some light snow here heading into Sunday. That would bring that snow accumulation that we just showed you, and then that moves off here into the northeast with a little bit of snow for the Green and White Mountains up into parts of Maine. Rain on the increase across the south as high pressure off the coast starts to bring in some warmer air here with temperatures on the way up, and we see that warmer air all the way up here into the northern plains as we head into Sunday. Now, this system here looks like it's going to bring a little bit of snow here to parts of Manitoba, east into Ontario again, and then more rain and snow here into the northeast. Now, we're talking about rain because a lot of warm air now getting pumped north here, so temperatures are on the way up, and I think it's just going to be mostly a rain event. Here's your Arctic air still lurking here back to the northwest, cold across the Rockies now with temperatures on the way down, some snow moving into the Colorado Rockies, and it might move as far south as North Texas into the panhandle of Oklahoma. Again, this looks pretty weak at this point, something we'll have to keep an eye on the West Coast, a bit of a break here from the action with some ridging building in here. Now, this is where things get interesting. I talked about that baroclinic zone. Really, that's a dividing line between the warm and cold air. And that's because you're going to have an area of low pressure here, and then you're going to have a cold front draped something like this. That's going to move to the east. The question is, as this moves to the east, are we going to see low pressure develop somewhere here along this front? What that does, that sort of buckles it a little bit, if you will. So you get some moisture holding back into the cold air, and that causes snow. So I've seen this happen before. Sometimes the models, especially the GFS, goes overboard on predicting this type of snow, but it's still showing up. It's been here for the last couple of days, the last couple of model runs anyway, and it's still here today. And that looks like it's going to move off to the east. And then the real cold air, it doesn't drive south like what we're seeing now. So it really is mostly glancing the mid-Atlantic into the northeast and across the northern tier, with a ridge again across the west and some light rain and snow showers across the Pacific Northwest. But that looks to get heavier into next weekend, and that could drop some snow now down into Tahoe. I want to compare this to the European. We just looked at the GFS. This is the European. They're getting pretty close, right? So this looks very similar to what I just showed you on the GFS with that ripple of low pressure riding up on your front. That would create some snow here in this area. I will tell you, the European is a lot stronger here with a little bit of a cutoff low look here, and with that upper low spinning through the Ohio Valley. That would mean once the front moves through, maybe a few lingering snow showers here, cold conditions. And the European looks a little bit colder too, with high pressure building into the south, pushing some of that cold air now all the way down into Florida. So a little bit more amplified here on the European. You can see big ridge here in the west, pretty decent trough in the east, and then it digs out. What happens after this? So while we will warm up, the North Atlantic Oscillation at least staying for the most part negative here, but once it gets past the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, it goes strongly positive. And I think that means across the east anyway, temperatures will be on the way up. I'm going to back this up and show you where we are now. This is the long-term European weeklies taking you through about the 15th, 16th, and 17th. You can see some of that ridging here, at least across the east, a little bit warmer with some zonal flows. You don't have a huge trough digging in like this. Now, what degree of certainty can you do forecasting that far out? Not very good. So here you are, week one. This would take you a couple of weeks out. Now we're getting close to Christmas. You can see near normal, at least above normal temperatures possible across the middle part of the country. And then as we head toward the end of the month, we're starting to see some cooling here across the east. And then as you head into January, this looks colder, right? Not only across the west, but also across the east. I don't know if I buy that. This just kind of seems odd that you would be cold in both places. So there may be some issues here with the modeling. Keep in mind, we're looking at January 19th. So yes, we're just looking for patterns here and what are we seeing. So there you go. All right, that's all I got for now. See you next time.